Alright guys, this is something that's going to be a little bit new for me. I'd like to go ahead and do a video on our foldable that we did in class, and for those of you that were absent, this is what we're going to end up having. It'll be on rectangular prisms and triangular prisms, and we'll have all kinds of notes on the inside. But how I'd like you to start is by having a piece of paper, a regular piece of paper is fine, and we're going to fold it over to where the where we don't cross over the dots so that we can still use our hole punches, okay? And then you can fold it in half down, and that's just going to show us where we can cut along, which of course I don't have scissors right here, so we're going to tear along. So hold on just a second. My hands are huge. Okay. Yep, this is perfect. Great. All right. So, now if I uncover the, okay. So now we're going to write on the top rectangular prisms, and that's going to be for 10.1, and then we're also going to be working on triangular prisms for 10.2. And so that's what our notes are going to be about here. Alright, we're going to start with our 10.1 rectangular prisms. So open up our flap, and on the inside of our flap, the first thing I want to talk about is that you guys have learned the formula for volume as length times width times height. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and write the old formula on here, where it's volume equals length times width times height. And you're going to see in some examples in the book that we can use that and it's helpful, but there's times where mainly I want you to be using the new formula because it can be used all the time. So volume equals base times height. And I made a capital B, and so I want to talk to you about what that capital B means. It's not capitalized for no reason. There's a really good reason that it's a capital B. And that's because it is the area of the base. Okay? It's the area of the base. And what's really important is that you understand, so let's put a little star here, that we're always going to first find this base, this big B. Okay? First we'll find big B, and then we'll use the rest of the formula. Okay? So then solve the formula. But it's important that we first find the big B. And you'll see why this is important when we get down to triangles, but I'd like for you to start the habit now with our rectangular prisms. So then we need to discuss, when we talk about bases, typically we're talking about the top and the bottom, although with a rectangular prism, you'll end up seeing that it does not matter which is on the top and which is on the bottom, or which is on the sides. Because just like with length times width times height, we could change it around and it's not going to affect the outcome because of commutative property of multiplication. That's only true for the rectangles. So bases are like the top and the bottom. And then the other sides, and I'm letting you know this vocabulary word because we'll be working on it when we get into surface area, the faces are the other four sides. So you've got your top and the bottom, and the other four sides that are perpendicular to the base. Okay? They come to a right angle with the base. And those sides are all parallel, congruent sides. Alright, so I'm going to teach you how to draw an amazing rectangular prism. So prepare to be amazed. So the first thing we do is we draw a rectangle. And depending on what type of rectangular prism you're doing is how far you're going to space this. I'm going to make like a cereal box. So I'm going to just space it just slightly where my next corner is going to be just a slight bit down diagonal from the first one. And then I draw my new rectangle as close to the first original size as possible. And then I'm going to connect the corners. And I've now drawn a beautiful rectangular prism. So if you missed that, rewind and watch it again. All right, so now I'm going to give you the dimensions for this beautiful rectangular prism. We've got the height we'll call 10 inches. We'll say that this base here is 8 inches and this width here is 2 inches. All right, so we're going to write our new wonderful formula, which is volume equals capital B times H. It's lowercase h, but I don't really care if you think of it. It is lowercase though. All right, and here's what I want you to do. I want you to draw like a split screen. That's what I like to call it, a split screen. And over here, I'm going to take care of that base, because remember that the first thing I'm going to do is find the B. Okay, we're going to find the big base. That's the first thing that we're going to do. Remember that that's the area of this base. So this is the area that I'm finding, that bottom. Okay, so you have to think about what that shape is. It's a rectangle, and to find the area of the base, that's a rectangle, it's going to be base times height. And so the base, I would say, is 8, and the height is 2. And so I find that the area of my cereal box here for the base is 16 inches squared. Now when I plug this into my equation for B, I don't need to keep the inches squared, because when we're doing our multiplication, we're not including our units. So I'm just going to put my 16 in here. And I'm going to fill in. Now what's the height of my actual prism? That's going to be this right here. That's the height of the actual prism. So we're going to do 16 times 10. So it's the big base, the area of the base, times the height, which is 10. And that's going to be 160 inches cubed. Because when we're talking about volume, we're talking about literally little cubes stacked up inside that are inches by inches. Okay, 1 inch by 1 inch cubes, 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch cubes are stacked up in here. Now the other thing that I went over in class was kind of the level idea. You know, you think about this. This is the bottom. That's the base. If I were to try and draw that, and this is going to get a little sketchy, I will admit I'm not good at this part. Oh, I don't know. That's coming out pretty decent. Well, you know, it is what it is. So this is my base in pretend world. So this is my base, and this is going to be 1 inch tall by 8 inches and 2 inches. And from back in the day when you used to do your length times width times height, this would be 16 inches cubed. And that's just our first level. Now looking over here, when we see the number 10, how many levels do we have of this base throughout this entire box of cereal? There's 10. So I would take my first level and I'm going to multiply it by how many levels there are. And sure enough, it ends up being 160 inches cubed. So I just wanted to show you this beautiful little idea of levels and stacking up basically levels. Alright, so that's our beautiful foldable for rectangular prisms. So now we're going to work on the bottom half, which is our triangular prisms. So for triangular prisms, we haven't really learned a formula for this one, so it's nothing you're going to have to reteach yourself. I'm actually going to give you this introduction now. And this is going to amaze you. You're going to be blown away. You're going to be like, how am I ever going to remember this? There you go. Oh, that's so familiar from up there. So it's base, capital B, times height. So again, we're talking about capital B is the area of the base. Okay? Now the thing that you need to understand about a triangular prism is that the bases are the two triangles. There's only two triangles in a rectangular prism, and I'll show you what a rectangular prism looks like in just a second. Maybe to start getting your mind there, think of a tent. Think of an old style tent where it's triangles. The front and the back entrance are triangles, and the bottoms all around are rectangles. So that leads us to our faces, and we have three sides that are called our faces, and they are rectangles. Or maybe squares, but I'll just go with rectangles just to make it easier. Alright, so we've got the two bases are the triangles, and in this case, the faces are rectangles. So let me draw for you, and I'm telling you, this is going to be amazing. You're going to be super excited. You're going to make a triangle, and then make one that's kind of the same size, if you can, off to diagonal. And then you are going to connect the tops, connect the side, connect this side, and look, it's a tent. I know, I'm talented, I can't help it. Now, let me put my measurements in here. So my measurements for my tent are 5 inches and 12 inches and 6 inches, and then we'll say this is 4.5 inches. All right. So we've got a lot of information here. We have to decide what we're going to use. So first things first, let's set up our equation, our formula, our OSS, and it's going to be volume equals big B times H. And I'm going to do my split screen, and I'm going to figure out B, which is area of the base. Okay, that hasn't gone away. It's still the area of the base. Well, in this case, what did I say? What shape did I say my base was? Hopefully you're looking at it right now. Triangle. So looking at this, I'm going to find the area of my triangle, because that's my base. So what's the area formula for a triangle? Hopefully you're saying 1/2 times base times height, or base times height divided by 2. I like using the 1/2 when I can. All right. Now we need to plug in the numbers. What are the numbers? We've got 1/2 times, and what's the base of this triangle? Hopefully you see that this is the base, and that is 6. Now the height is where people are making mistakes like crazy. The height of my triangle is right here. It is not the 4.5. The 4.5 is how the slant height is, but I want to know the actual height. And remember that height comes to a right angle with the base. And so our height is the 5 inches. So 1/2 of 6 is 3. 3 times 5 is 15. And so it's 15 inches squared. And I don't know if I've mentioned this, but this tent is not for you. It is for Thumbelina, because she's the only one that can fit in it. Or Jiminy Cricket. So, sorry. Alright, so I'm going to take my base and I'm going to plug it into my formula here, right here for capital B. Then I'm going to plug in my other values. Now, what is the height of my prism? The wacky thing is, the height doesn't always mean up and down. Right now my tops, which are usually my bases, are on the sides. So my height is sideways as well. So my height is the 12 inches. Because if I were to put this up on end, the bases would be the triangles and the height would be the 12 inches. Okay? I hope that makes sense to you. So then when we do 15 times 12, we end up getting 180 inches cubed. Remember, we're talking cubes. Alright guys, so I hope that that is a nice little quick review to go over. It's kind of an intro really, not a review, but an intro on the volume of rectangular prisms and triangular prisms. So, thanks so much guys. See you in school.